Welcome, BitMonger family. Today we have some breaking news, which is quite sad. A war has broken out. The USA has gotten involved with Israel with the war with Iran. I'm not going to get into the politics of that because that's not what I do. But I am going to be looking at how we can position ourselves and what we should be looking at in terms of our investments, and how in unfortunate times these are often times of great opportunities. So how might we be positioning ourselves to take advantage of this? I shouldn't say we, I should say I. Remember, everything that I talk about here is not financial advice. Do your own research. I'm just showing you what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. All right? All right, well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and monger on.
So the first thing I'm going to look at is oil futures, because let's face it, any kind of trouble in the Middle East often causes oil prices to spike, and that's what I think is going to happen. It's kind of a no-brainer. I'm surprised not more people trade futures when this is something that we could definitely be taking advantage of. So we can see here that it just broke this strong horizontal trend line, and it just came up and it touched this diagonal downtrended line, and I suspect it's going to break that moving forward, and it's got a lot of room to grow. Let's take a look at where it could go. A 65% gain. So if you use leverage, you could make a ton of money. Something to consider. All right, so that's what I'm looking at, crude oil. And let's also look at it here. Let's look at how is it doing. If we look at it on the yearly chart, it's still down 9.3%. So it's looking like a good trade to me. Something I'll be keeping an eye on come Monday when the CME opens up and Wall Street opens up. I think there's going to be opportunities to be made here. Okay, so now let's look at Bitcoin. And if we look at Bitcoin, we can see Bitcoin has held up extremely well. The news broke about maybe 8 hours ago, and Bitcoin is trading at $102,815 presently. Amazing resilience considering the news. So what are we looking at here? These are some key horizontal levels that I drew that were previous areas where it was kind of sticky. So if you don't have a position, you should be looking to add to your bags on any sort of significant dips. First area of interest is here at 98.3. The next one is between 94 and 95. And then the next one, 95 and 96 is the next key area of interest. And then 92 and 93. Now, if it breaks that, we can see it could dump quite far down, and the next area of interest would be 88.3K. However, due to the huge demand by corporates that have been purchasing Bitcoin like crazy and putting it into their treasuries, I do not suspect Bitcoin will go down there, but anything's possible. But I suspect they'll be buying it heavily if it gets into the mid 90s. So I'd be surprised if it goes down there. Remember, nothing that I'm saying is financial advice. This is clearly just what I'm doing and things that I'm looking at with my investments. All right, and let's take a look at the Bitcoin. Let's take a look at it on the weekly, so we can have a further long-term perspective. And here we have it. We can see since 2023, actually all the way since January 23, we have been on an uptrend, and it is going up and up and up. And if we go to the very bottom of the diagonal trend right there, if it were to touch that, what would that be? That would be at roughly around 79K. roughly 78, 79K if it were to actually come all the way down and touch that long-term uptrend. I do not believe that we are going into a bear market. All right, the other coin that I'm looking at is called Solana. I briefly mentioned it before in a previous video, and it is it's a layer one, and it is a competitor to Ethereum. I used to be a really big Ethereum bull, but I flipped over into Solana quite a long time ago, luckily, and have done really well with it. And it's continuing to do well. When I look at Solana, you need to compare it to its competitors, and its biggest competitor, as I mentioned earlier, is Ethereum. And I did an interesting search in ChatGPT, and I asked it what % of transactions of the total crypto market are done on the Solana blockchain. And it basically said it's the busiest, but it's depends on how you define the total market. But it does give these very important insights on on-chain metrics. And if you know anything about blockchains, that's what you want to be looking at. You want to be looking at the on-chain metrics. How many transactions, how many users are using the chain? That's what gives its value. If no one's using it, it doesn't have much value. So we can see right here on average, Solana is getting 93 million transactions per day. Now compare it to Ethereum, only 1 million. Polygon, 2.9 million. Base, 7 million. Now, if you take Base and Polygon, they are layer twos of Ethereum. So essentially whatever's done on here settles on Ethereum. So we'll just add these two to Ethereum's ecosystem, and we got 7, 2.91, call it 11 million transactions per day. So even with Ethereum and its top two layer twos, it still is just a tiny fraction of daily transactions compared to Solana, which is just mind-boggling when you think about it. I mean, it's and then it says right here. So based on this data that it gave, it says Solana accounts for roughly 84 to 85% of daily transaction volume across major blockchains. So the next thing I like to look at, let me close that, give it a second here. I like to look at the market cap, because this tells us how big it is. So if we look at Ethereum, we got 275 billion compared to Solana's 72 billion. So based on the market cap, I think Solana is extremely undervalued, and I will be looking to increase my investment if we see it dip down further. Let's look at fear and greed. This is the stock fear and greed. Currently, we are at neutral. I expect this to slip into fear when Wall Street opens on Monday. You always want to buy when markets are fearful, and better yet, when they are in extreme fear. That's usually when you want to run into the burning building and get as much as you can, preferably when it's under 20. Let's look at crypto fear and greed. It is currently at 42, and so it's holding up pretty good. It's in the fear. Again, I like to purchase when we are in extreme fear is usually the best. Okay, but those are areas that you might want to consider nibbling at, adding to your bags. I know I will be. And with that, I wish you all a great day, and monger on.